Okay, let's get this started. Hi YouTube. Have you ever been frustrated that you cannot show your ideas properly using just your static design that you make on Figma? Well, there is a solution, and that solution is prototyping. But, well, not just any prototyping in Figma where you click one button and the page changes like a slideshow. Well, there's a little bit more that you can do in Figma, but you get the point. Imagine a world where you can show your designs with little micro interactions, little animations, the small details that you can add to those little interactions, like haptic feedback. Wouldn't that be great? Get Play for free 99. Okay, just kidding. This is not advertisement. I'm not sponsored by them. I just found out about this app like a few months ago and I cannot stop using it. It's just so much fun. Let me get you on to why prototyping is kind of cool and why you might want to try it and how might Play help you, because that is the one that I've been using. So that is the one I know the most about. Probably, like most of you are watching this video here, you use Figma for anything and everything, from making designs for mobile apps and websites to doing my taxes. I've actually made invoices on Figma. And Figma is an incredible tool. Like, it's like a Swiss Army knife of design. Like, you can make logos, you can make brand identities, you can do whatever you want on Figma related to design. Like, you can use plugins, free resources to even do some photo manipulation. You make masks and edit images. Like, there's just so much you can do with Figma. But I've always felt that prototyping on Figma kind of feels a bit sticky. The prototyping part feels kind of flat, kind of like slapped onto Figma. I know it's kind of advanced now, like it has a lot of features with variables and all that stuff coming in, but it just like when you use the prototypes on an actual device, it just feels like, oh, okay, I tap this button and it changes states, or like, smart animates or something. But I don't know, it just never felt native to the device I'm using it on. You know, the thing that happens when you click on the subscribe button down below? That is a great example of how a prototype should feel. You should give it a try. But I kept using Figma for most of my prototyping use cases until one day when I was scrolling through Twitter and found this one company called Play. They had a mobile app at that time and I wasn't really sure what to do with that app. It felt like CapCut, like providing some insane level of functionality into a mobile app. It kind of felt interesting. I followed them and I kept going through their content bit by bit, day by day. And you know how I said that Figma feels like a Swiss military knife of design? Like, it can do a lot of things very nicely. I personally feel like for a tool to be very successful, it needs to excel at least one thing. It can be good at a lot of things, but it needs to absolutely excel at one thing. And Figma does that in the user interface design part. Whereas Play just absolutely, they picked a super niche product, which is prototyping for iOS apps only. And they absolutely nailed it. If Figma is the Swiss military knife, if you're still following that knife metaphor, Play is the katana of iOS prototyping. Okay, I'll leave that metaphor for now. I'm kind of done with that. So there are other prototyping tools as well, like Protopie, which is used for a wide variety of prototyping, like maybe car dashboards, maybe spaceship UI design, or like it can be an interface for anything, like absolutely anything. And Protopie probably does that better than Play. And Protopie is something that you can use on any platform, but Play is specifically dedicated to the Mac OS and the iOS ecosystem. I started playing around with Play. I made a few projects, and the prototypes, when I played them on my phone, they truly felt native. Like you could actually feel as if they were completed apps made for your phone. And it is really hard to kind of say and convince you guys that, okay, there is a difference between prototypes made on Figma versus prototypes made on Play. You just have to try it out and know for yourself. All right, why I wanted to make this video was to list the specific things that makes Play the best prototyping tool for the Mac OS and the iOS ecosystem. The drag and drop design interface. Okay, it's similar to if you have ever used Framer or Webflow, it's kind of similar to that. You kind of drag and drop stacks, which are like frames in Figma, or div boxes in Webflow, or like frame again in Framer. So it's like the container that you use to lay out stuff. And their drag and drop system is again very close to Figma, which is a plus point because a lot of people have used Figma, or even Sketch is it's a similar process. So laying out stuff on the page is a very similar process. And stacks is like frames that have auto layout already added to them. And stacks is the thing which is used in Swift, the coding language for iOS apps, to lay out content on the page. So that interface and that user experience of using stacks is something you would be used to, and it's very simple. So the beginner learning curve is kind of set to a lower standard, and it's easy to get started with Play. Number 2. You can make assets in any design software you want, and you can easily import them into Play and make use of them to make your prototypes. Number 3, they have an amazing library of native elements like sliders, date pickers, buttons, color pickers, time pickers, segmented controls, text fields, search boxes, graphs, even graphs. I didn't know they have that. Oh, yeah, probably in the health menu, but whatever, you get my point. They have a huge library of native iOS elements, and they will always look good if you just drag and drop them into your design, because they're made by Apple and they're always going to follow the human interface guidelines. So they're made to look good by default. They're fully customizable. You can change the colors, fonts, text styles. You can change a lot of stuff in them and make them look however you want to make them look. So no need to worry about not being able to customize those elements, and they're still going to be functional in your prototypes. Number 4, you can access your actual phone's hardware, like your device hardware. Let's say you're making a camera app. You don't have to put a very well-lit stock photo from Unsplash in your camera apps viewfinder. You can actually open your camera and see what the users will actually see. It's so good for user testing. Like, it's not like you open the camera and it's like a static image. It just falls flat. Like if you do that in Figma, you understand that, oh, it's a camera app. But when you're actually using the camera, you can see so much more. Like, is the overlay on top of the viewfinder for scanning QR code or scanning faces working properly? Like when you're using actual device hardware, it just lets you do so much more than a static Figma prototype. You can also use other things like the haptic motors. When you press a button, you can actually feel the haptic from the phone. When you're tilting the phone, you can use the gyroscope of the phone to have some kind of funny, interesting interaction, which is not that user-friendly, but looks kind of cool. And that's not it. They also have SF symbols. So SF symbols is the icon library made by Apple. Number 5, their prototyping node system is so simple to use, but it's not from frame to frame. Like it's not, oh, I click this and it changes to this. No, it's behavior based. You set a trigger and then you choose the behavior. What happens? What action happens? Does it give you a haptic feedback? Does it tilt something in a 3D space? Or does it change to another page? The focus is not from going page to page. The focus is on making sure the behavior reacts to how you're triggering it. Number 6, you can share your prototypes using app clips. So iOS has something called app clips. It is a function where you can scan a QR code or somebody can send you a link. And when you open it, if you don't have that app, you don't need to download the whole app. You can just download it temporarily. I don't know how it exactly works. It's like it downloads a bit of the app just to make it functional. But specifically for Play, what it does is that when you send someone a prototype of yours and then they open it, you can open the prototype if they don't have the Play app. It opens up in the app clip and they can experience the whole prototype, the tilting, using the camera, the graphs, the haptic feedback, everything on their iOS device for real for themselves. Like, you don't have to be like, oh, when you press that button, there's going to be a haptic feedback. Like, I wanted, no, they feel it. You don't need to explain that to them. It just makes for such a good sales pitch. So Play gives you QR codes, which you can put on your portfolio, or the links, which you can put on your portfolio, and anybody with an iOS device can use those links or QR codes to open that on their devices and experience it for themselves. Imagine an employer or a hiring manager is going through a portfolio and they just decide to check one of those out. And honestly, I'm not a hiring manager or employer, but if I see something like that, I'm just impressed. Like, anything that actually works. And lastly, 7, Play gives you the actual Swift code for your design. It's like Webflow. Like, you make the design, but you get the code. You get the actual Swift code. So if you want to learn Swift and, transition into app dev, you can do that because Play gives you the code. You make the design, you get the code, you can read the code and understand that. So if you want to add actual functionality, like some live data from some API, you can take that code, go to Swift, go to Xcode, put that code in, develop an actual app for testing, and you can just do that for your prototype to make it even more convincing if you need to. Or like, some features are still not yet in Play. I talked to their devs and they said there are a lot of features that are still coming in. But if you feel like there's something you cannot do, just copy the code, go to Xcode, add that functionality that you're missing, and you're done. You almost have a fully functioning app. So to conclude, Play is platform logged for macOS and iOS, but that's what they're doing and they're great at it. So if you really want to give them a try, there's the link down below in the description. It's a great tool to kind of explore and get to know that if you really want to do this or not, or if you're just good with doing what you're doing right now. It's just something worth exploring, I feel. And other than that, there are also other prototyping tools that I really implore you guys to explore. Is that how you say it? Something like ProtoPie is not platform locked. You can make anything and everything on there. You can make a microwave UI if you want. But there's also another tool, Rive Animations. That is great for some runtime animations, but you can also use it as a prototyping tool. I made this mood dial using Rive, and it was actually great. It turned out great. It was exactly how I wanted it to be. So you can give that a try. It's a bit, the learning curve on Rive is a little bit higher, but if you give it time, you'll learn it. And there's another video. I need to do another video on that anyway. There is also Spline, which you can use to make 3D apps or visionOS apps, which is coming soon to their features. And you can just explore these kind of different niches and kind of see what would give you the edge on being a designer. Like, what is the extra value that you can provide in comparison to other people who are competing in your same domain. I will be making the tutorial on how to make this wallet app prototype using Play, which was the first prototype I made on Play. And I think if you're just starting out with using Play, I think this is a great tutorial, and this will be coming out next week. Subscribe to my channel so that you know when I drop that video. And if you think I missed any more interesting prototyping tools, let me know about those in the comment section down below. And let me know that you like this video by pressing that like button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, bye-bye. Bye. You can close the video now. I'm going to keep doing this. You can close it. All right. Okay. See you soon. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye.